Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is. Welcome to episode number
34.
All right. Well, we know there's some moments in marriage that challenges marriage, like, for example, a crisis with a kid or remodeling a house or towing a trailer and mostly backing that trailer up. So we recently had an episode of this where we were towing a trailer and I was trying to back this sucker up. And I did not respond very well to my dear wife trying to help me. And it was the communication error on my part. Really struggled to be able to listen and understand where she was trying to help. And I was just trying to back that damn trailer up. So if any of you backed a trailer up, you know what it means. Into my driveway, I actually had my son's car in the back of it, bringing it home from college. And so we had a stressful moment there. It's been quite the weekend.
Yes, it has. We brought our son home from his first year of college, a son that we adore dearly, but had a diagnosis late in high school, and we didn't know what his options were going to be. Super proud of him. We had a daughter graduate from college on Saturday.
Yep. So that was Friday. We went down.
Friday, we unloaded his dorm and cleaned him out and brought him home, towed his car home just in case it had a check engine light on that could indicate something dangerous. So not to take any chances there. That was an exciting thing, loading that little car. And the next day celebrated our daughter's graduation from college. And then that evening, our older daughter surprised us, the one who just had a baby. Her and her husband and our little granddaughter surprised us and showed up for Mother's Day.
I got Amy pretty darn good.
You did.
I told her there was a Mother's Day package delivered on the front porch, and it happened to be our grandbaby.
The best package ever. I maybe collapsed screaming in joy, but
maybe on our reels, that what we'll use to advertise our podcast this weekend. Amy hitting the ground screaming.
Absolute pure surprise. You know, before we were married, I told you something like, nobody ever surprises me.
She said no one ever surprises her.
And, well, marriage to you has been one surprise after another.
Okay. Thanks.
No, you have consistently surprised me in some unknown ways and also some very delightful ways, like our granddaughter making a very long drive up to see us. And that was not expected. And it was pure joy to just hold her yesterday and snuggle her.
And see, listen, my youngest daughter is kind of like me, where she really doesn't ever get surprised. She's a little sleuth, and we try to surprise her too, but she'd figured it out. Got to do better on that, so we'll catch it. But yesterday we had Mother's Day too, which is really important. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Just because we didn't want to make it a normal Mother's Day, we also had to load my horse up, Clifford, and taking up to a barn because he's on his way to Las Vegas for a show. So it was kind of like dropping our kids off at school.
Yeah.
First time, letting my horse go.
In fact, I think Clifford is your favorite child.
He is, and my kids know it, so that's good. I remember driving home one time, and there was someone tailgating me, and I said, do you know my favorite child is in that horse trailer behind you? So you better watch out. So it was an emotional day, trying to do the best to honor and celebrate our mothers, and sometimes we felt that too, so wish I was home a little more yesterday to telling me how much I appreciate her for everything she does as a wife and mother. But I try my best. I smoke some ribs. I really smoke some ribs.
Like to a crisp. No, I must say your smoking is always very, very delicious. This was not the norm, so I want to give you all the credit because you do make some. Well,
this was quite funny because last time I don't have my regular smoker, and I purchased through a charity as we were doing a charity auction this little mini green egg. So it's kind of small. So I don't know sure how it works. I haven't worked it, and I did ribs the other day, and they turned out really good. Like I was really worried about them. Turned really good. And this is the pride before the storm. So
The pride before the fall.
the fall, I'm sorry. There was a storm too, but I had bought a rack for them and made sure we had enough ribs. I got up early because we didn't know my daughter was going to be here. And so we went and got ribs and I had it all prepared. And these ribs were looking perfect. Like I was mopping them and I was like, these are going to be the best ribs in the whole entire world. I was so proud. But I had to go drop my horse off. And so I wrapped them in tinfoil and put them in the smoker. And I said, okay, they'll be good for another 45 minutes. Well, I was gone for almost 2 hours, I think. Dropping
Maybe
him
3.
off. He had to eat and we had to give him his drugs. And like, it was a moment. So when I got back, I rushed over as fast as I could and took the tinfoil off and they were shriveled to a little crisp. So we had an urgent call to a restaurant for dinner last night for Mother's Day. Anyway,
They were good ribs, but they weren't as good as yours usually are.
Best intentions, but I guess in the end, what we really want to focus on today, it came from one of our listeners. So thank you very much. Wrote us an email. And he talked about how he'd been listening to one of our podcasts on differentiation, and we tipped our toes into a topic that he wanted to go a little deeper in, and that's active listening and what that looks like. Goes back to what I kind of tried to set the stage with me back in that trailer into the driveway and the conversation that happened there and being listening and understanding what was going on there instead of reacting. And I definitely did not listen. I definitely reacted. There was no active listening going on at that moment. Sorry. I don't know if I apologize, but I apologize now. But it is a challenge as we go through marriage. What does it look like to actively listen? And how does that different than just ignoring or, pushing our emotions down and not dealing with things? Because I think it can get confusing on that. And what does it look like to be able to do that? So today we're going to talk a little about communication and active listening in marriage.
Absolutely. And just for context, we're also going to combine another question from another listener, another email from another listener who asked us to include some of our favorite books. And so we're going to put 2 into one. One of my favorite books is Crucial Conversations by Joseph Grenny. And what makes a conversation crucial is when the emotions or intensity jump up. You can be having a conversation about how to load the dishwasher or back a trailer or pick up a child or your schedule or like these neutral, not charged things.
Wait, you said back a trailer. That's not included in that.
Well, most of the time it's not
charged.
a charged thing.
Well, if you're not there.
So I mean, you can be having these simple everyday conversations and they can turn crucial in the blink of an eye. And so what defines a crucial conversation is when it goes from maybe innocent or neutral or just unemotional to charged and emotional. And that usually happens because there's a meaning happening underneath the conversation for one or both parties involved. And the important thing to realize, I think, when a conversation becomes crucial is you're no longer talking about the thing. You're no longer talking about backing up a trailer or how to load a dishwasher or what to do on this certain day. When the conversation becomes crucial, you are talking about a deeper meaning. And one way to describe that is one person is in one pool of meaning and you're in another pool of meaning at that point. And what you're trying to do is find a shared pool of meaning, or you're trying to understand, where is my spouse at and where am I at?
So let's go back to this situation, since I'm being raw here and telling you my flaws about backing up trailers. Let's go back to that moment. So we pulled in here after a long trip.
Long. We'd spent all day.
I had this
cleaning,
Mini Cooper
unloading.
telling me the whole way on the back of a trailer. Actually, every time you looked up, you think.
And this Mini Cooper, by the way, has some charged meaning.
Special
because it is the only car we bought for our children, or we bought with them. They always pay for half of the car. Anyways, that has consistently broken down, like nonstop.
Well, that's because I was smart with all the other kids, and this is the last kid, and this car was fun. So that's the problem. We didn't go through for practical. It wasn't the Honda and Toyotas that bought the other kids. We got pretty lucky with my oldest son's 99 F-150. It ran and ran and ran, even though Amy thought it was going to break every time, and she had a love-hate relationship with that truck, but it worked out. So all the other kids' cars have just kind of worked, and we put a little bit of money into them, and it's been great. But this thing has been a piece of shit.
And it has the meaning for you, I think, even is you bear some of the weight of that. So there is some extra meaning attached to this car other than just being, oh, it has check engine light.
Even the guy I bought it from was, we had some right out arguments and other things because he just does Mini Coopers. And anyway, there's a long story behind it. We could probably do a whole 3-4 podcasts about the emotional distress this car has given us, but I've gotten over that part because my oldest son's become quite the mechanic. And so he tinkers with this car and gets it working.
He has literally kept it running.
We literally finally have it with no engine lights on, and it's been running great. And there is an emotional attachment with my youngest son to this car.
Yes, he loves it.
As we said, him being on the spectrum and dealing with things, it's a place of comfort for him, really. When he sometimes gets stressed and overstimulated, he'll just go out and drive.
Driving helps regulate him.
And it helps regulate him. So there's an attachment there too. So there's emotion around it. But anyway, that's the baggage that comes with this car. So we were cleaning all day, packing up, long drive home through traffic with a trailer loaded with a car. And I pull in to the house, and it's a little dark. And our driveway isn't terrible to get into, except our front street that we live on now is pretty narrow. So there's not a lot of ways to swing it. So you kind of have to swing that trailer in and get it cockeyed in the driveway and then pull forward and then back in. But because it was dark, I couldn't really see the mailbox, and so I was being extra cautious. So my dear family, who was trying to help me, had all kinds of suggestions at the time. And as Amy said, that could have been a conversation that we could have had, and I probably could have responded in a way that said, well, this is why I won't do that, or this is why it makes it harder. But that's not how I responded.
No.
I responded with some emotions.
Very. Remember when I've talked about how Greg strikes? It was a strike.
Because here I am stressed trying to get it in. And if you want to know what I really think is, like, you guys have never backed a damn trailer up. Why am I getting all the suggestions from you? That's not what I was supposed to do. And they're probably, if I'm going to be honest here and expose myself, which I seem to do often here on this podcast, is there's a little pride that comes to it, right? Because there is a skill to backing a trailer up, and trailer people, especially if you're horse people, and if you're hauling your horse, it's like, I can back a trailer up, and that's a prideful thing. And so when it's not going well, not a good thing.
Right. And I was actually trying to relieve the pressure, saying, hey, you can just pull him forward because he drives and you can drive him off. You don't have to back him in because it is so tight. So I was trying to relieve some of that pressure.
But then I reminded her that, and not in a kind way, I remind her if I pull him forward, I have to back out. So this has got to back sometime.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the situation. I all of a sudden got very emotional. Instead of trying to deal with that emotions and understand where they were coming from, I struck out. And that's really where these crucial conversations come from, what we're talking about, right? It's when we're in the midst of doing something and it no longer became the question of, can I help you back this trailer? And it became the question of my pride of, I can do this and I don't need your help. And why are you criticizing me about the way I'm backing this trailer?
Yes. And so that's when the conversation became crucial. It was no longer about a trailer. And that's when we were in very different pools of meaning. Me in the pool of meaning of, can I help you? And you in the pool of meaning, I don't need help. And if I need help, that means it's a wound to your pride.
I'm not capable.
Then I'm not capable. And what you're trying to do is, first of all, recognize that sign. Because I see so many couples keep having the conversation about, say, backing the trailer, and it's no longer about the trailer. So the first thing to active listening is recognizing when you're just having a conversation about the trailer, or when that conversation has shifted to a crucial conversation, and now you're dealing with an underlying meaning, and you are both in different pools of meaning.
And in that moment, you're never going to solve the problem, right? Because
never.
You're totally in two different worlds.
Yes. And so at that moment, the first thing you want to do is establish safety. Okay, you're having a meaning and I'm having a meaning. There's room for both meanings. Can we be curious about what's going on for you and what's going on for me? And safety is important. Emotional safety is so important because it says, I don't have to be right. You don't have to be right, but I am curious what's going on for you. And I'm hopeful you'll want to know what's going on for me.
Yeah, I think you've gotten really good at this, and I really appreciate it, because there'll be moments that instead of striking back at me, and that's new because you used to just run away, but now I get some strikes back every once in a while, which is good. Let's fight. No, just kidding. Don't want to do that. But what you've gotten really good at, and what I really appreciate, is helping us get to that safety. And usually it's a reminder of this doesn't add up for me. Like the response I'm getting from you doesn't add up to the conversation we're having. And so what's really going on? And it gives me a moment to break from my conscious thought, or I guess unconscious thought, and my emotions behind it, to stop and say, what is really going on? What's behind this conversation? Mm-hmm. And it's given me the grace to be able to do that. And knowing, again, I've talked about this a lot. I'm a winner. I want to win, right? And so I used to go in these conversations winning. And I realized that I just lose if I don't handle my emotions and I strike out. And so it's given me the grace to be able to pause and think about what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. And a great skill to be able to do this is do-don't statements. So this comes straight from Crucial Conversations. And what you're trying to do is establish safety and also clarify what your intent or meaning is. So in the example of the trailer, it could sound like, I don't want to criticize. I'm not trying to criticize, but I do want to help you. And I can see that had a different meaning. And so you're clarifying, I'm not trying to attack you. I don't want to attack you, but I do want to support you.
Yeah, in that moment, you kind of struck back with, well, can you answer kind to me? That didn't go very well either. I'm like, just be quiet.
No, I think I said, I think you could say that a little nicer.
Which again, wasn't like striking back, but it had an underlying of you're wrong and you need to fix what you did, right?
Yeah.
And I think of that moment, if he would have said, I'm trying to help you, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
How can I do that? That would have been a different conversation.
Absolutely.
And this goes back to, let's talk about what we talked about in active listening, because I think we fall in the pit of active listening. That means we're listening, trying to understand, which is good. But the problem is, if we do that and we just let our emotions take over, we try to fix the problem that we're trying to listen to, or we try to make sure that we get our last word in, or our nudge, or that we want to be right. There's all this other baggage that comes along with it, where you can literally be doing what you like. Active listening is listening and shaking your head and repeating back. There's those things you learn. But I think there's a whole undertones underneath with the emotions and how you're processing that allows that active listening to really work correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this email really wanted very specific, clear steps. Another really clear step that I love from Crucial Conversations, and Esther Perel talks about it a lot, and so does Terry Real. So this is something that's shared across a lot of different things, and it is to be very clear about what you are making it mean. So this is what I saw happened. This is what I made it mean. I'm curious, what are you making it mean? And so what you're doing is you're establishing, okay, here's my pool. I'd like to know what's going on in yours. Can I understand what your pool of meaning is? And I'm giving you some insight into mine to hopefully open up. Again, not in a way of I'm right, you're wrong, I'm trying to prevail. I'm not in a self-righteous way at all, but in a very open, here's what I made it mean, in an accountable, responsible way. And I'm curious what you made it mean.
Yeah, I statements are very helpful in this moment. We just went through this morning, right? Me having been gone most of the day, yesterday, dropping the horse off and dinner not going well. There were some moments that Amy thought maybe I didn't really care that much about her and to celebrate her Mother's Day. And so last night we didn't even do our emotion check-in, which is very, very strange with me. So that didn't go well. So we're trying to figure this out this morning. And I got Amy to tell me where she was at and why she was feeling that way. Oh, my first thought, I just wanted to lash out. I wanted to I hate Mother's Day. It's the worst in the world. I can never beat expectations. I do everything wrong. That was my first thought. And I sat for a long, long time. Did I not?
Mm-hmm.
and thought about it. And really, I think in the past, that's what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those emotions did finally come out. I was able to share those with you
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
a
this isn't
way that
about
was
suppressing
constructive. You
emotion.
weren't,
It's
suppressing
like,
it.
this is my pool of meaning. This is yours. Can we open up enough space and make enough room for the truth of what's happening for
Right.
each of us?
And so I started with, and it took me a long time to get to this place. I started with, I can see my actions may have said this to you, but this is where I was really coming from.
Yeah.
And that opened us up to have the real raw conversation.
Yes.
And those emotions that I just yelled a second ago, I was able to share in a way that was way more constructive.
And also me saying, here's what I'm wrestling with. This was the meaning that I had, but I can also see that I think there's something else going on for me.
Right. Taking ownership of your part. That's the crazy part about marriage. No matter what, you play a part in it.
Yes.
As right as you think you are, you play a part into that. And taking ownership, and it's not to excuse anything. And there's certain things that maybe your spouse has wronged you or has done something that has really hurt you. And so it's not trying to excuse those things, but it's looking deep into the situation and seeing, what have I done to set up this situation the way it is? What are the things that I think? Like this morning, I really had to think about it. Okay, yeah, I left for hours on Mother's Day, and I came home and turned on the NASCAR race. Those things could tell Amy that she wasn't as important as the NASCAR race, or even sitting around the kitchen table was a little interesting for me. So this time I sat around the kitchen table with Amy, celebrating her as a mother. My other daughter had her baby, so she's a mother now.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, when I said the prayer and thanked them for motherhood, my youngest daughter reminded me that she gave me my first grandchild as a kitty, so that she was a mother too. So now I'm like, oh shit! Like, how am I gonna do this? Where usually like we go around and we say what we love about Amy and how great she is as a mom, but then I'm like, if I do that, then my daughters won't feel that way, and so I try to share. Anyway, to say my first thought was to strike out of all the things I did and tried to do for you. But then I realized, oh, okay, that could have meant that to her, and this could have meant that I didn't care. And so I really had to go check through all the things to understand what I owned in the process.
And so did I.
And I could share that with Amy.
And I had to share that I think one thing that's difficult about motherhood is that there's never any sign that you're doing it right. Or there's never any feedback that's positive. Most of feedback in motherhood is negative.
And I had to remind you, like, all your kids were there and they loved being with you and spending time with you. That's a pretty big sign to me.
There is always this little, not little, maybe sometimes bigger than I want to admit, insecurity of, I look into their eyes and I think, did I do them justice? Did I love them enough? Did I do all that I could?
This is interesting. What does it mean to love them enough? Can you help me understand that?
See, there's the enough word.
Yeah. What does it mean?
That's the measuring mind frame.
Yeah. It does. Like, your kids love you.
And I love them.
And they've turned out to be amazing human beings.
They are.
There's no other measurement that should be in the world of enough.
Yes. The enoughness is the trap there. And so that was the wrestle I was having. And anytime you start measuring, you get stuck in a trap. And I told you, I'm wrestling with this. And I think what I'm actually wrestling with is my own insecurity. And then we have a shared pool of meaning, right? Yep. I understand your pool of meaning. You understand mine. You can see where you are wrestling, where I am wrestling. And then there's just so much more understanding. And I think when you're in that wrestle, what's happening is you're saying, this is what I made this mean. I understand that I own this meaning, and also that I could need to update this or revise this, that like I am responsible for this meaning, and it may not actually be the most true or the most helpful or the most productive or productive at all. This may be me trying to extract validation, and that is something I need to take ownership of.
Right. It gave me the space to also admit where I could see that I could agree with you, right? Mm-hmm. I can say, okay, I can see these actions here could have signaled that, right?
Yeah.
Not my intent. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I can see it. where when we don't take the I and we don't establish that safety, we're just again going to protect ourselves and strike out to either be right or to emotionally protect ourselves, which really actually causes the emotional damage, really.
Yes.
And it's that taking ownership on both sides that allows us to be open and really honest with each other.
Now, if you're having a conversation with a spouse and your spouse likes to go to silence or violence, defend or deny, these are things that we all do. So welcome to humanness. Or maybe you have a spouse that is really quiet or has a hard time sharing. And in that case, you may have to sort of prime the pump. And what I mean by that is saying, I think this is what you might be making this mean, or I think this is what might be going on for you.
Not in an accusatory way.
Not in an accusatory way, but you're starting to open the door a crack.
This is what I see, or how.
Help me know if I'm on the right track. Am I on the right trailhead here? Is this how you're feeling, or is this the meaning that you gave to ... And so sometimes you do have to help extend that olive leaf or that grace. One quote that I learned a long time ago that has helped me so many times when I want to lash out, or when I want to feel justified, or when I want to really go into my superior one-up because maybe somebody has hurt me or disrespected me, or what I view as hurt and disrespect. And that quote is, every action is a call to love. And we can be offended by others' actions, or we can see them as a cry for help. And so sometimes I do have to remember, hey, they may not be behaving in their best self. They may not be showing up at their best self. True, sometimes I don't either. And often when I'm in those places, what I'm actually doing is asking for help in the most regressed, childish way. Yes,
That means don't seek to try to fix your spouse. You don't want to do that. But leave it open enough for them to be who they are and share with you. And I think a perfect example of that is I am a passionate person.
Yes, you are.
And I will speak very bluntly about those passions and moments.
Yes.
And at times it used to be to strike back to defend myself from emotional harm. But even you being willing to say, I think I see something differently, and allowing me to respond in my passionate way without it pushing you away or hurting you, I think is helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think we're there trying to save our spouse from crisis or fix them. But what I've seen you be able to do is, one, ask the question, hey, this doesn't add up to me. I'm curious about what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing me to process through my emotions. And at first I thought I had to stop being who I was.
No.
And responding the way I did. But the example this morning was very perfect, right? I was very passionate about telling you what it really meant to me or how it made me feel. Not in an accusatory way or jumping out of it, but so now I can take that passion and I can express it, but the intent behind it is not to strike out and prevail.
Win.
The intent behind it is to tell you how I really feel. And to me, that's been the biggest help for me is, one, pausing and asking me the questions to make me think, allow me to spend the time to think about it, but also allowing me to respond in a way that's true to me and not that it's made up or different.
Yes. And I think one thing that is helpful in that, if you are a direct and passionate, or you like confrontation type spouse, it's helpful to first try and create that safety. Again, the safety is created by, I want to see and understand and hear you. So rather than jump in first, try and create enough space to say,
that's what I wanted to do, right?
Yes. Tell me what's going on for you.
Yes.
Help me understand. Tell me more. I'd like to be able to see where you're at. Is this what's happening for you? Anything that can help open up. Again, maybe you're priming the pump. Maybe you're just...
You're taking the ownership. Mine was the I see this and I take ownership of my part.
Or taking ownership, any part that is yours. And people are so hesitant to take ownership of... Even if it's only 10%, own it.
But it takes both spouse. I had a couple that I coached that when they did own anything, the other spouse would use that against them. And it had been ammo for years. And so they were touch and go on that, right? Because they're like, if I open up an admit, then even the smallest crack, that will be something they'll put in their pocket for later. So we got to be careful about that too, right? It's a beautiful thing when your spouse finally becomes vulnerable enough to open up to you and admit things, but please don't use that as ammo later.
Yes. That destroys all emotional safety. So what destroys emotional safety is trying to prevail, using things against the other person, having to be right, having to have your meaning be the right meaning, not creating enough room for them to be seen and heard. And sometimes when you're creating room to see and hear someone, you do have to regulate your emotions, which is why we do that emotion practice every freaking day. Because when a conversation is crucial, the emotions are intense and charged.
Yes.
And in those moments, those are the most, again, that's why it's called crucial moments, to be able to not suppress, but regulate enough to say, okay, I have something going on for me and my spouse has something going on for them. Can we be curious enough about what's going on for each other to get to the meaning of this and to understand each other? Because once you can get more meaning, more truth, more understanding on the table, that's when the collaboration and things start to shift. When you stay in the I'm right, you shouldn't, you did, or the violence or attacking or denying or justifying, none of those ever help solve anything. And so that is not active listening. That is, I'm coming into this conversation to win. Active listening looks like, I want to see you, I want to hear you, I want to understand you. And I'm also willing to share what's going on with me, to take ownership of mine, to be able to challenge my own meanings, and to be willing to collaborate.
Yeah, I think key to what you were saying there is regulate those emotions, but do not suppress them. Because what we used to do, and what I used to do, I guess, personally, was I would get all those emotions and I would not strike out. I would push them down and not deal with them. And then I would strike out. And I wouldn't respect that because I haven't dealt with them. So this morning, those emotions were immense. When I finally got to talk about why you were upset not talking to me last night, they were immense. And I'm sure you felt me pull away a little bit and go into myself. Because I had to go through them and understand, okay, what does this mean? Why is she saying this? Why is this making me feel this way? I'd probably spent a good 5 minutes sitting there not saying a thing.
Which is fine. And if you need to take a walk, take a break, go exercise, as long as you say, I'm coming back, I need to go figure out myself or go have a moment to see what's going on for me and I'm coming back. That's actually very wise. That's a very kind thing to do. But you got to, it's stonewalling if you just leave. But which is, by the way, one of the most punishing things we can do to each other. So saying, I'm coming back, I just need to work through this. That's totally okay.
Yep.
Totally. Very, very helpful and productive.
Emotions will be strong. They'll be the same. Like those aren't going to go away. Because that's natural reactions that your brain's doing to you, saying you're in a place of unsafety emotionally and it's firing everything at you as fast as it can until you deal with it. And it will continue to fire and fire and fire, and it will get more and more and more until you deal with it. Because that's the way we're built. That's how we work. And so don't dismiss those. Don't try to suppress, as we said, but try to understand where they're coming from and then try to unravel them together as a couple as you actively listen and work through whatever this crucial conversation has become, because it's hitting something raw and something different that we need to address.
I think one other thing that has been helpful, and this actually comes from Tony Overbay. He has his 4 steps to having I think he calls it a connective conversation. He talks about assuming good intentions. One of the first things you can do at the outset is to assume that your spouse is not trying to destroy you. To assume that they are in a pool of meaning that is different than your pool of meaning, Remember, two people in the exact same circumstance can have extraordinarily different meanings all the time.
That is crazy.
It happens literally almost every moment of the day. And so to assume that they are not there to destroy you or harm you, that opens up sort of that lessens that threat within you. And yes, you are going to have your own meanings and your own emotions and your own things going on. But I think when you assume that your spouse is trying to hurt you in some way, and that often comes from the subtle, I'm going to win, I'm going to prevail, that's related to the emotional safety, then the threat level goes so high and it is harder to work through. So again, starting out a conversation, assuming good intentions, assuming that it's absolutely, completely, and totally normal for two people to have very individual, different pools of meaning. And what you're trying to do is create enough safety to get in the same pool.
That doesn't mean you have to agree with each other.
No, but you're trying to at least have a shared pool of meaning that you both can see so that you can have a discussion and collaborate about that. If you're each swimming in your own separate pools, there is no collaboration understanding that's going to happen. You've got to get to the point of a shared pool of meaning, which happens by either sharing yours. Here's what happened. Here's what I made it mean. And here's what I'm feeling. I'm curious about yours. Or asking them, I can see something's going on for you. Can you tell me what that meant? Tell me more. Tell me what's happening for you. What did you make that mean? Any type of opening up, priming the pump, asking. You want to make enough room to have that shared pool of meaning. And what I often see is when one spouse starts to share what is really going on, which is usually, do you love me? Do you care about me? Do you respect me? Do you think I'm enough? When you get to those really vulnerable meanings that deal with our personal insecurities, that's when you really want to tread carefully. Yeah. That's not the time to attack. That's the time to listen and go, yeah, I have those too.
I just kind of had an aha moment here sitting listening to you.
Yeah.
And really all those years that I was probably being very direct and lashing out and striking, I always think I like to win and prevail. But in reality, I was really trying to make myself safe emotionally because I hadn't dealt with my own emotions and understood what they were. And I didn't even know where they were at. So I was so confused in an emotional state that would be a strikeout, because if I could strike out and say that I am right and prevail, then I would be and then I would protect myself. When all reality I was doing was putting myself in a more dangerous area emotionally. And that's the tricky part about this, is because emotions mask things. They confuse things. Your mind tries to do things to protect you, and it's actually harming you when it does them. Taking the time to try to figure that out and be honest with yourself is so important. And man, I had a lot of shit to unravel, and I still do, I guess, because I still mess it up quite a bit, whether it's backing a trailer in or
actually your outbursts are few and far between now.
Yeah.
The children all say too that your aggression has calmed a ton.
Maybe I'm more emotionally safe.
Yes.
I guess I'm trying to say it's hard. You've probably spent years and years and years dealing with this and acting in a way where you're trying to find yourself in a safe place and not even realizing that you are. And so as you come to a reality of that, it's hard work and it's frustrating and you don't always see it. And it's been such a blessing in my life that I've had wonderful people around me, coaches and friends, and an amazing spouse that has sat with me and helped me understand what's really going on. And I know, coming from a manly man's perspective, we're supposed to have none of this, right? We're not even supposed to have emotions. We're supposed to take care of them, and that's not tough if we don't. And so what I'm trying to say is that don't be afraid to delve in and try to understand what's going on and become more secure in your emotional safety. Be honest and open with it. Be able to talk to other people about it and be vulnerable about it. Because if you don't, you're just putting a mask up at that moment. And that's when behaviors won't match what you truly feel inside.
It's actually quite sad to me as I coach a lot of men and helping them understand. They feel like when I first ask them about the emotions they're experiencing the day, it's often annoyed, irritated, or angry. And that's kind of the only emotions they have permission to.
Because you won't say horny's an emotion.
No, it's an experience, but it's not an emotion.
Liar.
And that is so limiting to them. And yet they are experiencing so many more emotions than that. And those sort of land, I guess, in the masculine category. I don't know, maybe feeling powerful. But as they expand in that understanding of their full emotional capacity, I think it does increase the emotional connection within a relationship. And the emotional connection, again, is the foundation for physical and intimate safety. So all of these things kind of make a chain. So being able to listen and understand that when a conversation becomes crucial for whatever reason, and it comes fast and unexpected and out of the blue, it's not typical that we go in knowing it's going to be crucial, although sometimes that does happen. But often it happens just in a spur of a moment and it's not intended. There's just something that will light or ignite or will get charged for some reason because those meanings come up. And that's when you want to try and ask and understand what are those underlying meanings and talk about those and address those. It's no longer about the thing. And I have seen it many couples fight about the thing, and it's no longer about the thing. It's about the meaning underneath. That's what you want to get to. And those are often more vulnerable, more difficult to share, more difficult to wrestle with, and also what bring you closer together and understanding each other. These crucial conversations can be difficult to navigate. They can cause very intense emotions within you. Take some deep breaths. Create some safety within yourself. Create safety within your relationship. Assume good intentions. Search for curiosity. Search for openness. Search to take accountability for anything that is yours. Try to find where you may need to expand in your meaning or understanding. And that's where you really start connecting as a couple.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening with us. Thank you for this. Listeners that emailed us ideas. We love it. It was great. Teed it up for us. I'll keep on messing up so we have content to talk about. So I'm guaranteed to do that.
We promise you we are so human. And if you ever think anything otherwise, you're wrong.
Yeah.
We are very human.
And I really feel blessed to have been on this journey and to have the right people around me to help me see some of my dark and hidden spots. And we would love to be able to do the same for you. So please come join us on langfordlifecoaching.com. There's a little button up on every page that says free consult. We would love to sit down and have that consult with you and chat with you. We're so grateful for this. Appreciate everything. Again, hope all those mothers out there had a wonderful Mother's Day. I hope the husband survived and did all the right things. And until next time.
Keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.